It's set to sunset to sunrise, or you can have a custom schedule where you set where you want the light appearance and when you want the dark appearance. So that is pretty cool. I love the fact that they added in the feature to actually have it automatically change. You can also access this inside of the control center by 3D touching or haptic touching on the brightness toggle right here, and down at the bottom you will see an appearance. You just tap that and it switches the UI just like so. The next feature,
moving on to photos, there have been so many changes inside of this app, from the entire UI being overhauled to a new share sheet, but I want to focus on photo search first. It looks a lot better, it looks a lot nicer, and I also feel like it works more accurately. There's also algorithms now that will be smart enough to try to predict what you want, like just showing it to you right off the bat in the search panel in Photos, which is pretty neat. Now this one's a big one. You know how you can edit photos in the Photos app? Well, what about videos? You actually couldn't really do much with video editing in the Photos app. Now you can. You can apply filters, you can apply effects to videos. You can also, this is probably the most useful feature of them all, rotate video inside of the Photos app. Now moving on to text input, it doesn't look like off the bat there have been any changes in iOS 13 because largely it looks the same, but there have been some really big ones. First off, text selection was driving me crazy. I'm so used to double tapping on a word to copy or paste it. Now you tap and hold, and then you drag to like select a sentence like that. And then if you want to move it, you can copy and paste it from there. But the keyboard, guys, the keyboard's where one of the biggest changes ever has happened, and I feel like Apple didn't really highlight it that well. You can now swipe to type, like on Android, like on every other mobile device pretty much ever created. Okay, what about like undoing text? That's a pretty key part of an iPhone or a Mac or a PC. Like, you're gonna mess up at some point. Well, previously you had to shake your phone. It was super archaic. Now that we have this, in iOS 13, you just double tap twice on the screen with 3 fingers to undo your most recent action. Yeah, it's that easy now to undo. And also, while we're on the topic of the keyboard, there are now separate dedicated emoji and globe buttons. So if you use multiple keyboards, you speak multiple languages, and you switch between them frequently, it will no longer be annoying if you want to use emojis and like also switch keyboards frequently. So that's really, really cool to see here on the iPhone.
On iOS 13 than it was in iOS 12. And if we actually go to start drawing on our document here, you can see the utensils down in the bottom are a lot more lifelike, a lot better looking than they were in iOS 12. Pretty big difference there. I think they look a lot better in iOS 13. We also have the color swatcher right here. Looks a lot better than it did in iOS 13. It pops up right away instead of, you know, having to press it after already pressing it once. You have these different colors and then you have to press it again. So looks better, a lot easier to maneuver around with in iOS 13. We now have accessibility settings on the front page of the settings application, so you don't have to go digging. It's going to be on the first layer, the first page of settings now. And if you go inside of here, you'll see that we have some really cool icons beside all of these things here as well.
And then we'll go ahead and go down to the third menu here, which actually displays some new options. So here in the third menu, we can actually see that we have an accessibility menu on iOS 13. So this is really cool. Instead of going to general and then accessibility like you would on iOS 12.4, you now have a separate menu for accessibility. So if we go into the accessibility menu, you can see we have voiceover, zoom, magnifier, all that jazz, and then the list goes on. So this list is quite extensive, and I definitely think that if you need any accessibility options, you should go ahead and check it out. Now if we go down here to airplane mode, you can see that our controls are actually a little bit different. Here on the right hand side, our controls are just slightly different from what we were seeing in iOS 12 there. We have a darker UI for the switch there, so that looks really cool. Now, one change that I did notice, which was really cool, is screen time looks slightly different here. I actually like the much cleaner look here on screen time with iOS 13. You can see that this kind of spinny dial up here on the right-hand corner has shifted down here to the left. And if we go to the bottom here, the bottom menu, you can see that we actually have communication limits. So a lot of kids were going ahead and basically continued their texting through the control center and everything like that after their screen time was over, and Apple noticed that this is not good. So they added a communication menu here where parents can actually control exactly what their kids are doing, even down to the communication limits.
Is SwiftKey, basically SwiftKey. So we now have keyboard swipe gestures that you can use natively inside of the keyboard in iOS 13. So you don't need to configure any settings. You don't need to go into your keyboard settings and enable it. You could just basically start swiping and typing right away. So if I wanted to say, hey, what's up, in just one swipe, I can do that. So I think you have to stop after each word, but we'll do a space, what's up, just like that. And it actually saves some time because you can sometimes type a lot faster if you actually swipe instead of individually press on the keys. So that's a really cool feature that I'm glad has been added to iOS 13.
Now in the Wi-Fi menu, we actually have a little bit different of a layout here. We have Ask to Join Networks. That was kind of an option here, but it was only on or off. But here we can actually have it notify us if you know, the phone is asking to join a network. Now auto join hotspot is definitely a new one. I'm going to leave this as Ask to Join because I don't want to always connect to a hotspot, but it is nice to have that feature. It is definitely a welcome one. Now, one major thing in regards to the Wi-Fi and communications and everything like that, and I actually missed this previously. If we go into the Wi-Fi menu here, you can see that if I do a long press on that Wi-Fi, can't really do anything. But here in iOS 13, this is definitely a feature I wanted to see. We have a menu within the control center here. So that is really, really cool.
So the first thing is going to be the new volume HUD. As you can see there on the left-hand side, I want to talk about this first because I did just make a dedicated video to the volume HUD, but you'll notice that the first time you press the volume button, you will get a fat little indicator there, but if you press it twice, it turns into a skinny little bar there on the left-hand side of the screen. Now, when you flip your phone into landscape mode, it's the same deal, except for this time, it's at the top of the screen, which actually looks really good, and it really reminds me of like Instagram's volume indicator, so I really like the way that the volume HUD looks when in landscape mode. And for those wondering how the volume HUD will look inside of YouTube, this is how it's going to look. It will cover up a little bit of the video, and if you're watching it in landscape mode, it will also cover up a little bit of the video, and it also shows up with YouTube's built-in volume indicator. Now, I don't know if that's a bug or not. It probably is a bug, and it's not going to show up there, but you can see that is how it looks currently in beta 1. The next new feature.
Now, going into the settings app, we have a lot of changes here. So as you can see, on the left is iOS 12.4, of course, and on the right, we have iOS 13. And in iOS 13, we actually have the ability to tap the
sleep or rest peacefully. Next up, you remember that really obtrusive volume heads-up display that would always go in the very center of your screen? That is now finally gone. They redesigned it so it's really nice. It goes on the left side of your display just like this. Shows you the full volume at first. As you continue to adjust it, it goes extremely like slim mode on us. And yeah, I mean, we've wanted this forever, and it's finally here inside of iOS 13. Same thing for the—
It has to do with battery and charging your phone. So if you go into our battery settings and go to battery health, you'll notice at the very bottom we have a new option called optimized battery charging. So I'm just going to read what Apple says here. It says, to reduce battery aging, iPhone learns from your daily charging routine so it can wait to finish charging past 80% until you need to use it. So I'm going to explain this in a separate video, but this is actually a really nice feature to prevent your battery from wearing down. So really great feature here in iOS 13. Again, I will talk about that in the future, but it is going to be beneficial, so I would recommend turning that on. Now, if we go into the music—
Moving on to the Mail app, it actually got some pretty nice upgrades here. You can block senders now, which is fantastic, in addition to muting specific threads. So if there's certain threads that are always popping off during the day or night, you can sort of put that on do not disturb.
In iOS 13 is a really awesome animation when you flip the mute switch. So let me just show you. I'm in mute right now. When I turn it off of mute, take a look at that at the top. And speaking of photos, we can actually go to the Photos tab and zoom all the way out, and then zoom all the way into a certain time and date that we want, and actually zoom all the way in and see like different types of views. So we can get like grid views, we can get this rectangle view where we can go up and down and see all of our videos. We also have the little options down here now. You can see it says years, months, days, and all photos. So this is pretty cool if you wanted to just see all of your photos and videos and get to them pretty quickly.
And a mute switch now. Again, it used to take up our entire display. Why did it do that? No one will ever know. It now slides down, at least on the iPhone 10, from the very top with this amazing animation.
Now, if we go down here to the battery menu, you can see that we have a slightly different icon for the battery menu in iOS 13. Unfortunately, though, nothing really has changed with this menu. We don't have any more options to see any more data. It's really just all the same, but we do have that same UI look change that we saw in screen time. So this looks absolutely amazing. I absolutely love it. It looks great. So let me know your opinion on this new look and how you like it.
Again, didn't think these would be coming out with like the current hardware version, but you can now instantly reply to text using AirPods because Siri will now instantly read you text, and without even having to like interact with anything else, if you want to reply, just say, hey, tell Kat this or tell John this. Like, you can say whatever and Siri will just send a text to them seamlessly. It doesn't appear that this feature is out just yet, but there's a new high-key mono portrait lighting mode, and then this next one is totally the future of photography, being able to change lighting of a portrait mode effect in post. So you can adjust the intensity of lighting as if you were almost moving a light physically closer to someone, which is totally crazy. I wish I could go hands-on, but it doesn't seem to be in beta 1 on my iPhone yet.